Greetings, my name is Ev, and in today's video I will be taking a look at this little travel palette from Lightwish. It comes in this really pretty little box that doesn't tell you much about what's in it, but what you can gather from the box is that it is a palette with 36 wells. I think that's what they mean by 36 grids. They say ceramic palette. I think that's the mixing area. And then it also has a watercolor sketchbook. So let's take a look at what's in this box. So when you open it, this is what you see. This is the palette. There is 2 travel brushes. And then a watercolor sketchbook. All right, that's everything unwrapped. Let's go with the palette first. This is how the palette is presented. So you have these 2 compartments on each side, and then you open it up. From the material, you can see that the base part of this palette is 3D printed. So the body and the lid, the main compartments, these are also 3D printed. It is designed to fit in the binder, and there's a few features that are quite interesting. You can set these here like this, and I think for this one you have to raise it up like this so you can have your water containers with the palette. I think you could also use these to store your brushes or your pencil as you work. There is an insert at the top too, so I wonder if you could set it so it props the palette up like this. It's a bit top heavy, so maybe with the paints in the body it would be a bit more stable, but that's a possible configuration. And then I noticed that these are designed to be compatible in the sense that like you could fit these 2 together like this and have this on the side with your palette too. So I think that's quite interesting. The palette, as advertised, has a lot of space, so it would fit 36 colors in here. It doesn't come with removable pans. You have to put the paint directly in the palette. I have a small selection of pans here just to show you, but these are quarter pans, and as you can obviously see, they're bigger than the wells here. I have this little metal pan, but it is also bigger. And then I have this teeny tiny one that is almost a good size for it, but it's a little bit too high and a little bit too small overall to fit. So for now, you really have to put the paint directly in the palette. These are the ceramic part of the palette. They have a couple of little bumps in them, like little flaws, but they seem to be quite nice. I'm really excited to try mixing on these to see how it behaves. And then basically it's held closed with magnets, and you can also like secure it with these. So that's the palette itself. Now we have 2 travel brushes also, one size 0 and this one is a size 12. So a big and a small brush. They are gummed up, so I'll have to put them on the water to soften the gum and remove it from the bristles so I can use these, but I like that there's 2 sizes included. I think that's a really good idea. And then the sketchbook. So this is a watercolor sketchbook. It says acid-free, 100% cotton. You have the sizes here. The binder itself appears to be synthetic leather, but it's really quite nice. You can see here it has a nice finish on the sides. And then when you open it, you have here on this flap, you have room for other tools. I don't think the brushes are necessarily a good fit because these loops are quite big. And here you have a pocket. This one is quite snug. And in here we have the paper. Like the description says, this is a binder sketchbook, so you can clip it open, you can move the papers around, you can add more paper when you're done. I quite like this kind of setup. And then this is made so that you can put your palette in here. Maybe like this. Yeah. If you want to paint with it, that's how you would set it up. I will fiddle with this some more, I will get used to it, and I will come back with more detailed impressions after I've put some paints in it and done a painting with the paper and the brushes, and I'll let you know what I think then. But yeah, so I'll get to this and see ya soon. And I am back. So I've played with the palette a little bit, put some paints in it, did a little doodle, I used the brushes, and I want to share my impressions with you guys. Recently, I shared a video with a similar palette, so I had that in the back of my mind while I was testing out this one. And there's a few observations that I want to share that are pretty obvious, but still. So this setup only has one of the binder attachments, so it's a bit more limited in the ways you can set it up. Not necessarily that it's a good or a bad thing, but I struggled a little bit to set it up in a way that worked for me. So what I ended up doing is I used it like this. For the sake of fitting on the camera, I will show you in this orientation, but I turned it around 90 degrees. So yeah, I set it up like this because I wanted to do a little landscape format painting, and I put the palette to the side. I didn't find a setup where I could keep the palette attached that worked for me. It was either a little bit too inconvenient or just weird. And since I was using a table anyway, I had that, but you could fairly easily keep the palette in the binder. So I did flip the pages. I'll take these out. I'll keep just a few to make it a bit easier, but like the default setup is to have the pages on this side and then your palette on this side. And you can then open it up like this. Like I did with the other palette, I kept a couple of papers for, you know, testing out paint. If you set it up like this, you could slide them onto that side. Both sides have this flap that is quite handy. And then you can have your paints on this side, or you can do it the other way around if that's what you prefer, like this. So depending on if you're left-handed or if you're right-handed or the format in which you're painting, there's a couple of configurations that are easy to set up and would work. Again, as a general comment for this palette, I would really like to have a portable hole punch. I'll see if I can find one. I have a couple of ideas, but yeah, something that is slim and small and can maybe even be included in the binder if I have to. But yeah, just something a bit more convenient, because the holes here I think are a bit smaller than regular hole punches will do, and the configuration is also something that is not that common in North American office supplies. That's a way to set it up. I tried when I was doing my little landscape format like this. I could have set it up with the palette above. It was just a little bit inconvenient for filming, and I wanted to record a little bit of a time lapse, so I detached the palette, set it aside. That way it would fit a bit better in the framing of the camera. But yeah, it was really easy to use for landscape format this way, and it was not a hassle to set it up. Like, I was able to very quickly switch things around and get going. I'm gonna talk briefly about the palette. I didn't put paint in all the wells. First of all, I didn't know what colors I would put in this set, and never mind the fact that I would have to put 36 colors in here, I think. Yeah, 36 colors. So I told myself I would start with a smaller selection of colors that I've wanted to play with for a while. So I dug up my My Merry Blue tube set. I have 6 tubes of My Merry Blue paints, their introduction set. And then I have a brown Style de Grain, sort of vintage tube from them. It is vintage-y because it predates their decision to have all their paints be a single pigment color, I think, if I remember right. Correct me in the comments if I got that wrong, but I think that's what I heard. Anyway, since I was not super familiar with these colors together, I did just a little quick staircase mixing chart, and I was not necessarily surprised at the colors, but it ended up mixing a whole lot more muted colors than I sort of thought it would. Not that it's an issue, but I really didn't think much about it, and then when I mixed it, I realized, oh, it's a lot of muted colors. We have a very like orangey yellow, a very purple, magenta, and a very blue cyan, let's say. So in terms of mixing primaries, these are a bit more limited. And then the other 2 colors that are in the introduction set are the green gold and the Payne's gray. And they're really nice, but again, when you mix everything together, you don't end up with a lot of very saturated, vibrant mixes. It's a lot more muted. So I used that color, like mood, as inspiration for my sketch. And I did the chart on a sheet of the binder so that I could keep it in the binder with everything else. I decided to put the paints in the middle, because why not? The paints dried out well. The vintage tube was a bit different in terms of texture because it's older, so it had separated a bit more. That's why it looks very different. But like all the more recent tubes, they came out with good texture. They attached to the palette really well. And I think my favorite feature is the mixing area. We are back again with this ceramic-like surface that is seemingly really thin. but that mixes really well and I really like it. It is such an interesting material because of the way it behaves when you mix paint on it. It doesn't like pull together, it doesn't bead, because basically when you have a surface that's not that great with any kind of water-soluble medium, you will spread out the paint with your brush and it will sort of resorb back into a puddle or a drop, and that's called beading. But in this case, with this surface, when you spread out the color, it stays more spread out and you can see your mix a whole lot better. So I really like the palette. I think ideally with this one and the other one that I've tried, I like these. I think it would be to Lightwish's benefit to offer these completely white, if that's possible. I think if they had options where the whole plastic, the 3D printed plastic part is white, it would definitely appeal to more people, because a lot of people would prefer something that is more neutral in terms of color. Possibly gray, if you can get a neutral gray, would work too, but white is sort of the expected color for a place where you will put your paint so that you don't have any kind of interference with the base color of your item and then the color of the paint. These little compartments, I haven't really found a good way to use them yet. On their own, I like the idea. I like the fact that you can attach them together. That's fun. They don't, like, they're pretty loose. If I were to plop them down and pick only that one, I would lift only that one. So if you want them to like stay like this and perhaps be a bit more secure, having a rubber band could be a good way to work this out. In terms of the palette itself, it was pretty easy to use, pretty straightforward. I think the wells are a decent size. The whole proportions to me feel quite good, so I don't have any kind of comments or issues with that. But like I said, white plastic would probably make a lot of people happy. I used the brushes that came with the set for the painting. It's a size 0 and a size 12. I quite like this kind of setup. I like having a smaller brush and a bigger brush because it's very versatile. The smaller brush doesn't keep its point really well. It's, you know, it's workable when it's wet. When it's dry, it looks a bit blunt. The bigger brush seems to have a better point when it's dry. But all in all, these were very serviceable. I was able to use them for my painting and I didn't have any issue. I just had to be more careful if I wanted to paint really small areas because of the point being a bit more finicky. The travel setup on its own is pretty standard. You have this metal part, has a hole in the end here for allowing your brush to dry, and then when you don't need it, I don't want to do it because it's dry, but I'll do it with this one. It's a bit smaller, so there's less of a chance of bending some bristles, but when you're done, you can just store your brush this way and it's good to travel with. It's not gonna get all messed up while traveling. And then when you paint, you just post this protective cap. It grips well. I know these can vary from brush to brush, but for these two, I feel like the grip is really nice on the attachment part. Just a quick note. I noticed that these don't necessarily fit well in the elastics. The elastics are a little bit too, like this one is a bit more snug, so it's fine, but they are a bit too varying in size to be very convenient, and they're possibly a bit too big. I don't have a lot of supplies that would require an elastic to be this big, so if these were made perhaps a little bit smaller, I think it would be more handy. Like, this is my very beefy pencil, and I think my very beefy pencil would fit in here, but at the same time, it's not the kind of thing that, like, it doesn't feel that convenient to fight every single time to put it in there. And then when I close the binder, it adds a lot of bulk to the whole thing. Like, imagine with the palette in there and then everything, and it's like, it's bulky, and I would rather have a pencil case on the side with all of my sundries for drawing, erasing, inking, painting, all of that. If I could set it up like myself, I think on this side I would have preferred perhaps like the pocket, instead of being here, could have been on the inside here maybe, and then you can keep papers or whatnot in there, or perhaps a way to attach a paper towel would have been also quite helpful. It could be just another one of those strips that go all the way from side to side, and then you can attach, like, you can slide part of your paper towel under there, or having a plastic board to protect stuff. Anyway, I'm just brainstorming random ideas, but I don't feel like the loops here are the most optimal thing to have in this palette. Again, with this one, I've also made a little framing template. I did it with the smaller palette, but I liked it enough that I wanted to have one for this one too. So it's just a L shape that you can super easily prop on your page to, like, frame an area in the middle if you want to have a more thought out look to your painting. If I were to bring this thing with me outside, I think I would tinker with it a little bit. So I wouldn't bring these with me for now. Until I find a good use for them, I don't think I need to bring them. The palette stays closed really well with the magnets, so not an issue. I would probably take the seam ripper and remove these elastics, and maybe add a clip in here so that I can attach like paper towel or my swatch paper, have it there, or just, you know, I feel like a clip is perhaps a bit more useful in this setup than these elastics. I really like having the mixing paper here in the back, so I'm definitely keeping that. It's not a feature that comes with the palette itself, but something that I know I use. It's worth noting too that the palette, if you paint, you kind of have to set it up this way. But if you want to close the binder better, it kind of fights with the thickness of the paper. You can kind of see it, right? Like it doesn't stay flat. If you want it to stay flat, you have to open it up, switch it around, and then it stays flat. And then when you close the whole thing, it stays moderately flattened together. So like this. I like the fact that there's 2 snaps, but again, it's a bit limited in terms of options. Like I'm exactly in between the 2 snaps at the moment with the way it's currently loaded up. And I didn't add anything special to it, really. If anything, I removed stuff from it. So I wonder if an elastic closure here of some sort would have worked better. Because if I want to clip it, I have to clip it to the bigger option, and it's kind of floppy and loose this way. So I'll sum up my notes on this set itself, and then we'll take a look at the little doodle that I did with these supplies. If I compare with the smaller set that I've reviewed, I think the smaller binder is perhaps a better fit from my way of doing things. With this one, I feel like I have to tinker a little bit with it to get it to that sweet spot where it works well for me. Like I said, stuff like perhaps removing these. I'm considering doing something with this strap here. But yeah, it's perfectly serviceable. You can use it as is, like I didn't have any issue. And you can sort of configure stuff easily enough to fit what you need to do. But ultimately, on the long term, I would definitely tinker a little bit with this set. So this is my little test painting. It's pretty simple and it's a pretty small painting, but I used the L template to make the frame, and then I used a fine liner to ink it and I painted on top. The paper took to the paint really well. I really don't have any issue with it. It was a lot of fun to paint and the brushes behaved really well. So in terms of supplies, the paper, the brushes, the way the palette behaves and the way you can mix on it, really fine and dandy. I really like it. If I had to choose between this one and the smaller one, I think I would pick the smaller one. It's just easier to get straight to it without having to tinker with it. But I really like both. I'm eager to see where this kind of palette will go in the future, and I would really love to hear your thoughts on this iteration of the binder palette. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have tried a similar palette, and if you have any suggestion on how to set it up or how to use the stuff that I didn't pick up on, please share in the comments. I would love to know. And again, a big thank you to Lightwish for sending me this palette. I really appreciate being able to test this out and to share my thoughts in a very free way. They don't tell me what to do. These are my own thoughts and impressions, so I really appreciate that. And thank you guys for watching this video. I hope something was helpful in here, and again, I really appreciate that you took the time to watch this video. See ya in the next one, and until then, take care. Bye bye.